Welcome everyone, how's it going? Scramble here with an update, another educational material for Lucid Trading prop firm. At this time we're going to do account comparison and I'll help you decide which is their best account, which is in your advantage by showcasing you certain things that will be very beneficial. So we're going to talk about their Lucid Test, Lucid Pro, Lucid Direct accounts, challenges, and the instant funding version as well. Going to take things step by step. Before we get into, we are doing daily Lucid account giveaways on my YouTube channel on the live stream. At the same time, we have some videos posted about Lucid, such as a complete platform honest review and the payout rules right there on my channel. You can find them out. So for the live 8 a.m. EST time daily, we're streaming. Make sure to join us, including the Discord community we have for free pretty much everywhere. Enjoy yourselves, right? So coupon code Scramble, link in the comments, all that stuff you already know. If you find this useful, feel free to go ahead for maximum discount every single time for any campaign. Let's talk about the things that are important. And the first accounts we'll look at today will be the Lucid Direct accounts. We're going to take care about the Lucid Test accounts as well. But first, we're going to start with their instant funding accounts model. So there's two instant funding, the $50,000 and the $150,000 model. The price depends on the promotional campaign. I'm speaking about what is today, but the time you might be seeing this video could be a little different in the price right there. My code is always going to give you the highest available, and that's totally discounted. So the first target for your 50K is at $3,000 at 6% of the account size. The max loss is at 4% with $2,000. Right, so max loss is 66.66% of the target. That's how the math is done between the first target and the max loss, just for you to know certain details. The payout is $2,000 on this account, and if we look at the current price, $294, and we put that into the payout, we divide it, we see the ratio. You're going to receive 6.8 times the value you are paying for an account at a payout request. 6.8 times. That's what you're receiving on the 50K. Now, something interesting is that the second cycle, you have a 5% target. That's what you got to produce, 5%, and you will be able to request the payout once you made that $2,500. You can request your $2,000 payout on the second cycle. 5% is certainly needed to be made with that. It's pretty much explained right here. But another very, very important thing is we will see that there is a big difference with the 150K. I'm going to touch bases on that. The max 5 accounts that you can have active can bring you in a trading cycle $10,000 totally. That's the max payout in a cycle from the 50K, $10,000. A cycle means you start trading the account from the beginning till the payout. That's a segment. It's called a cycle. The next cycle starts after you got paid. You have a new cycle, 10 grand again, maximum 5 accounts. But we're looking at one thing here. It means actually that for each 1% that you have earned, right? For each 1% that you're earned from that target, a target is at 6%. So I've been questioning how much money do I actually earn for that each 1% produce out of the 6% I have to earn. And if using 5 accounts, I'm getting paid for each percent that I'm earning $1,666. I got to make 6%. So we divide it with the max payout because we're speaking about the possibility of 5 accounts. A lot of the people go with a 5 accounts option to maximize the whole process, or simply they are building with the first payout, second payout to the 5 accounts ratio, because this is the way you maximize, right? So with 5 accounts, if we look at this, needing to earn that 6% for each percent you're producing, you're going to make $1,666 at the payout request time. That's kind of how much it's worth it, right? Second cycles, targets, and payouts. Well, if we look at the picture from 2 cycles perspective, first cycle 6%, second cycle 5%. These are pretty much industry standards. For both cycles, you need to do 11% totally. $2,000 in the first payout, $2,000 in the second payout, $4,000 right there by producing 11%. if you have basically more than 3 payouts, which means if you have 4 payouts already, you will be able to receive 2,500 to request 2,500 instead of 2,000, right? So after the third payout, you go with 2,500, a little bit more. But this is about the 50K account, and certainly 6.8 times than what you're paying sounds interesting. The 5% second cycle target as well. The max loss between the first target is also interesting with a 4% to 6% right there. Basically, each 1% that we earn, it's kind of valued at $1,666, right? These are interesting facts to consider. But the good part is we will discover if this is attractive or not if we compare. So the 150K is what we're comparing because these are the two available products on the LucidDirect instant funded, 50K and the 150K. Obviously, the 150K is way more popular because it is a way better product. 432 today with my code. Again, promotions and the values are changing depending on the campaign that is existing, which is having a starting date, expiration date. That's how the promotional campaigns are in the prop firms. You guys know that. The first target is 6%. That's basically the industry standards. Max loss is 4%, pretty much the same like with a 50K. Nothing changes. It's just the values in the front. It's more money, but the percentage is the same thing. And if you're trading based on percentages, you will be able to see basically it's kind of the same thing because you're adjusting from the size. If you're trading on 50K, a single contract, on 150K, you can adjust that basically to fit the percentage needed. So the max loss is the same thing, 66% of the target. The payout is different here, is $1,000 more. The payout is basically $3,000 per request, which means if we divide the payout with the price you're paying for an account, 432, it's 6.94 times. Basically, is better. You're receiving more than what you're receiving at 50K, which is 6.8, slightly better, 6.94 times more on your purchase. Second cycle is where the biggest deal is basically with this prop firm, and it's something unbelievable, guys. The second cycle discussion starts here with this 150K, because in your second cycle, your target is $4,500. So I'm going to repeat that. Your second cycle is $4,500, which is only 3%, and this is unimaginable. Comparing to the 5%, that's one thing. But 4,500 from 150K, 3% right there, and then we make 4,500 and we have the ability to cash out $3,000 once again. That's incredible, guys. A lot of the prop firms will request you to make $6,000 in the second cycle, or even more than that, some of the prop firms. And that's a big difference. Some of them are requesting you to make 7,500 in your second cycle. Think about it, the same 150K. We're speaking about here an amazing deal. 4,500 is basically half of the first target. You got 6% there, 3% here. Think about it. And let me share with you that. Here you have it. The profit goal for your second target and all the upcoming cycles you're part is 4,500. Half of the first target. That's insanely valuable. And that's where the gap is, which makes the 150K extremely, extremely attractive. So once you cross basically the first cycle, you get into the second cycle, your chances of starting to print significant amounts of money and have a nice jump into your performance, especially on the financial side, is tremendously increased. Tremendously increased with this 3% target. Max 5 accounts, pretty much the same rule, $15,000 per cycle. Means for each 1% you're making, considering the first target at 6%, each 1% you're earning, you're gonna get $2,500 if you're using 5 accounts for that 1%, right? Because it's 6% for the first target. So that's kind of what is valued 1% of earnings, 2,500, way higher than what is valued on the 50K, 1,666, way more. For each 1% you made at the time of cash out, that 1% is kind of valued at this level, which is nice in terms of money, right? Because it's $15,000 divided to 6. 6% is your target for the first payout. If we look into the second payout, I mean, that's crazy. For each 1%, you're going to receive $5,000 at a time you cash out if you're having 5 accounts. Think about that once again. In your second cycle, for each 1% you're making, at the time you're cashing out and you hit your 3%, you're receiving $5,000 for each 1% if you're having 5 accounts. Because you have a target of 3% at 15 grand cash out. Think about that. Of course, we got to say that there is a profit split after you cross $10,000 in payouts for Lucid Trading. 90 to 10. So you will receive 90% of the value if you're crossing $10,000 in payouts as a trader on the whole platform. 2 cycles, targets plus the payouts discussion. Well, 6% first cycle, 3% the second cycle. Totally, that's 9%. $3,000 on each, making it up to $6,000. So you're needing to earn 9% compared to the 50K, 11. That's less. Way more. And instead of 4, you get 6% with a less percentage as well. Clearly, the value stands right there for the 150K, a tremendous value. Now, currently the price is $432. This used to be around $480, $502. This is extremely discounted right now on 40%. Most of the time, this is costing a little bit more, right? But there is right now 40% off the massive discount of the first 5 accounts, and then it's 30% after. Usually it's 30, 35, 40%. These are the numbers they're running around with the promotions. Looking at the other model of accounts, the Lucid Test. The Lucid Tests are challenges, guys. The Lucid Tests are accounts that you buy, you have to pass the challenge, and once you pass your challenge, you become funded. So it's not an instant funding, a Lucid Test. But once you pass your challenge, once you pass your test, you become Lucid Pro. That's how your account is going to be named, Lucid Pro. You cannot buy a Lucid Pro. You have to earn your Lucid Pro by passing the test. And these accounts are obviously cheaper because they're not instant funded. So by hitting the target, you cannot request a payout. By hitting the target, you are passing your challenge. And then once you get your Lucid Pro, which is actually in the same day, you start basically trading on the Pro account, which allows you to go for the payouts at the time you hit your target over there as well. Of course, has big differences in the prices, but you will see why. $180 for the 150K, for example. Yeah. But let's dive into the details here. For the 50K, this is extremely purchased by people, although a much better value out there is for the 150K. Much better value, you will see that. The price is just slightly above the double, double would be $162, and this is like $18 more for the 150K. The size is triple. The price is just around the double, and the size is triple. The test target, which means the challenge account, to pass the challenge, to pass the test, you need to do 6%. And that's the same on the other side as well, 6%, right? On the funded account, on the LucidDirect, you made your 6%, you request your payout. What a big difference, right? In the attitude and possibilities. Meanwhile, here, you just pass the challenge. So you have to start from scratch because your Lucid Pro will start from scratch. Your Lucid Pro, so the funded target, is your buffer. That's the first thing you got to do in your Lucid Pro, in your funded version of the account. Once you pass your challenge, you got to make the buffer. The buffer for the 50K is at 4.2% of the account size. It's $2,100. That's the first thing you got to do in the Lucid Pro, in the funded account. Meanwhile, for the 150K, it's 3%, guys. $4,600. So way more attractive. Which means for the funded stage, you got to earn less. Percentage-wise. Less. Incredible. Incredible because, let me share with you. Payout comes above the buffer for this model of accounts. So first, you pass the test, you become funded. The funded version is Lucid Pro. On Lucid Pro, first, you earn your buffer. $2,100 on the 50K, $4,600 on the 100K. Right? So that's marked right there. $2,100, $4,600 here. plus the amount of money you want to cash out. Because that's what you can cash out, whatever you make above the buffer. That is possible to be cashed out. Whatever you make above the buffer. You can't withdraw into your buffer. No, just above the buffer. So if you want to take out the max payout for the 50K, which is 1,500, you have to make your buffer plus the 1,500, which makes it a total of 53,600. So $3,600. And that is 7.2%, guys. 7.2% in the Lucid Pro funded account. On the other side, it's 4,600 your buffer. 3,000 is the max payout. That's 157,600, and that's only 5%. So you have a gap there of 2% between what is needed in the Lucid Pro for you to reach the payout, the max payout. Because whatever is above the buffer, you can already request as long as you have the minimum payout, which is $500. Right? So if you have 2,100, you made $500 above that for the 50K, you can cash that 500 out. You don't need to go for the max payout 1,500. Most of the people go for the max payout, which is why I work with these numbers like this, working around the max payouts. But you can, even for the 150K, if you want to cash out 2,000, you're free to do it. You don't need to make that much if you want to do 2,000. Now, max loss is, 4%, $2,000 for the 50K, 3%, $4,500 for the 150K. A little bit less there. What does it mean a little bit less? It means $1,500 less than, for example, what you had on the LucidDirect, right? Look at that. If we measure these things like this, we know that the max loss on the LucidDirect is 4%, which is $6,000. Yep, that's right. The payout is $3,000, and that's pretty much double than what you have on the 50K. Payout per price ratio on both sides. So you're paying $81 and you're cashing out $1,500 for the Lucid Test. That's 18.51 times. So you kind of have a lot of the room. If you're blowing up accounts, you have a lot of room with that. You have a lot of the place to cover yourselves. For the 150K, it's 16.66 times. If you're paying $180 and you're cashing out 3,000, that's your ratio. Second cycle, well, the second cycle requires you to make money, certainly, and consider that you have basically the 5 minimum trading days, and there is a minimum, because this is where that discussion starts. There is a minimum you have to make per day. You have 5 minimum trading days. And this kind of refers certainly to the second cycle, also to the first cycle too, but it's important for the second cycle. Minimum profit per day are these values depending on the account size you have. So for the 150K, minimum value is 5 days of 200, and then you can go ahead and request the payout. Let's not forget that the consistency is 35% for the Lucid Pro. No consistency for the Lucid Test. For the challenge phase, no consistency. You can pass your challenge in a day. Go ahead and trade it. That's right. But for the Lucid Pro is 35% consistency. Meanwhile, for the LucidDirect, the instant funding is 20% consistency. And you have 8 trading days. No minimum profit per day there, just like you have it here. No minimum profit per day, but you have 8 trading days needed. At this time, with Lucid Pro, 5 separate days. The minimum profit is $200, so you got to make that $1,000, of course, for the 150K. But look at this, guys. You made 2%, you can cash it out. You made 2% respecting 35%. So this deal on the second cycle is crazy. It's amazing. Lucid Test 150K, again, amazing deal for the second cycle. 2% and you're taking it out. Because you're having, for example, 157,600 in the first cycle. You reach that, 157,600. You're taking your 3,000 out, you're remaining at 4,600. You're exactly on the buffer. You're making 3,000, you're again having the ability to cash out as low into the buffer limit. Not in the buffer, but at the limit, right? So that 3,000 you made, you can take it out. and it's just 2%. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's 3%, 1,500 for the 50K. Yeah, well, you know, the payout per cycle, again, 15 grand, 7,500 on the other side. And if we divide the things here, well, you know, let's put it this way. What are the percentages you have to earn from the time you buy the account till the time you cash out real money? Let's look at into the left side for the 50K. The test is 6%, and that's pretty much the same, right? The funded is 7.2% if you go for the max payout of 1,500, because you got the buffer, 2,100, and the 1,500. So 7.2%. That's a total of 13.2% for you to cash out your 1,500. That's how much you have to earn. 13.2%. So you're earning that money, 13.2, and you're cashing out 1,500, which means for each 1% you made, you're receiving $114. If you have 5 accounts, then you receive $570. If you're copy trading on 5 accounts, for example, right? But you got to do 13.2% to pass the test, get funded, and go max payout unfunded. Most of the people go max payouts. That's what they're hunting. 13.2% to reach there. You have this possibility as an edge. Look at that. 18.51 times you're buying it cheaper than what you're getting paid. 18.51 times. A lot of the chances to succeed. And it's just a number of games. How many accounts do you have right there to succeed? 18 accounts. And of course, you can do 5 accounts. Think about it. Lucid Pro, you can have 5 Lucid Pro. Basically, on the platform, on the Lucid Trading platform, you can have 5 funded. Either way, you have a direct or pro, totally they can be 5. If you only have tests, you can have 10 tests. Lucid test accounts, you can have 10 simultaneously. But you can move into the funded stage, only 5. If you already have 5 Lucid Direct, you can't have Lucid Pro. They have to be paused. If you're losing 1 Lucid Direct, you still have 4 Lucid Direct, and you have Lucid Pro available, you turn that on. So, meanwhile for the 150K guys, you need to pass the test 6%. The funded stage is 5%. That's a 2% difference, I told you. And totally that's 11% guys, for $3,000. You got to produce 11% for $3,000. Which means for each 1% you made, with a single account, you're going to get $271. Way more than the 114. And if you put that times 5, because you're doing copy trading, that's $1,356 if you're using 5 accounts. For each percent you made, you got 11%. That 1,356 times 11 will give you the 15 grand, which is the max in a cycle. So this is where we are, guys. Comparisons, obviously that's what we're doing. A lot of the data, a lot of information is out here. If we put these things together here and we'll look at the numbers, you're reaching the test 6% for the 150K. Indeed, it's cheaper. It's $180 compared to $432 right now. It's cheaper. What's the difference in the price? We can do the math quickly here. 432 minus 180, right? $252 difference. Is it worth it? What's the difference that I have to do to take my first payout? Because that first payout is going to set me on profit. It's going to, change the things. So for a $252 extra that I pay, once I touch my 6%, which on the test account, it would only qualify me for the funded level of the account for the Lucid Pro. For the Lucid Direct, it would actually give me the payout of $3,000. Think about it. Let alone, and keep in mind, an amazing opportunity is that your second cycle on the direct account is 3% away from you. And that's just insane, I'm telling you. So for $252 extra per account, that's what you get, guys. If you want this $252 to be saved, You need to have an outstanding performance, because otherwise it's not worth it. Because otherwise you're going to spend way more. And not only the thing is you're going to spend way more to get that $3,000 cash out, you have to make 11% on the other side, right? On the test. 11% to get that $3,000. Here, 6%, and you're taking out $3,000. That 5%, I mean, if you've been trading, you know that even $200 can make the difference. A couple of days ago, I needed to make $80, and we've lost. It was the last day. We've lost. We haven't lost the account, but we've lost money during that day quite a lot. And you saw that on the stream. And I've been there. Last day, or 2 more days, or 3 more days, with $50 needed, or so, let alone an extra 5%. So an extra 5%, which is needed on the 150K test account, for me to have the same 3,000, I have to produce an extra 5%. That's making the difference. And I think it's making a bigger difference than the $250. I think. But of course, depends on a lot of the things. You can give it a try and see. But this is, of course, way harder. It's 16.6 times compared to the 7 times you have it over there. And that's why it's like this. Because it's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's 180. I mean, you can almost buy, you can easily buy, if we divide 432 divided to 180, 2.4 accounts. But still, people make way more money with the direct funded. If you pass your challenge, you will look back to that one and you will say, wish I would have spent an extra $250, because at this time I could have requested $3,000. So wish I would have spent an extra $250, because the gap here is massive, $3,000 for the cash out. And if that's with a single account, it's one thing, but if you're doing it on 5 accounts, the gap is even bigger. 50K, of course, it's there. It's a good entry point for the accounts whatsoever, but still way more convenient with the 150K, guys. You can read around these numbers, watch this video multiple times, ask questions in the YouTube, ask questions on our Discord, join on board for all the other things as well. You know, we have a lot here. 35% consistency is easier for the Lucid test. Not for the Lucid test, for the Lucid Pro, because the challenge do not have consistency. You can pass your challenge in a single day, no consistency. You also have to think about the daily loss limit, which is a soft breach. You're not losing your account by touching your daily loss, but the limits are smaller. 2,700. The LucidDirect is 3,600, with the possibility of having increased it higher with a Lucid scale. That's something I have to explain, but the idea is it can never be less than 3,600, right? So it can only increase. Your daily loss limit can increase with that option. It can never be less than 3,600, or for the 50K direct, never be less than 1,200. That's where we are. 20% consistency, which is obviously a thing you can control nicely from your take profits that got to match the number. I mean, with 150K, you got to do that $9,000. So 9,000 divided to 5, 1,800 for 5 days, you're qualified for a payout. You just have to do 3 more days and you do that $5 to $10 each. And that's it, right? If you want to go the highest speed, this is the highest speed. You divide with the direct accounts the value you have to do, your target, by 5. And you're discovering the highest speed. So 1,800 for your target. If you're making more than 1,800, you will have to do more than 9,000. Meanwhile, for the other side, you know, 35% consistency, that's fine, but a lot of the money to be made and huge percentages, because basically the test account is at a level where if I would be on a direct account, I would have the ability to request my payout already just by passing the test on the other side. That's the difference, guys. But of course, you can pass the test in as little as 1 day. That's also one thing to know. Personally, I prefer the direct accounts, but I'm also working around test too. But obviously the priority is the direct accounts. And this is how I've seen around our community as well. A lot of the people prefer the direct accounts. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Link is in the commentary in the description area. Coupon code SCRAMBLE for the highest discounts every single time on Lucid Trading and other prop firm platforms too. Make sure to join our live stream 8 a.m. EST time daily. A lot of the people. And that's pretty much it. Have a beautiful day. Have a lovely time. Subscribe to the channel. And follow for the next educational materials. We talk to you soon.